I'm so excited that it's another episode of Total Education with Neil with my co-host Jared. Please visit my website at totaltutor.net for more information. Twitter, Total Tutor, Neil S. Haley, Facebook, LinkedIn, all the different areas. And it's been an unbelievable ride in the media world of the Total Education Network. 4 years anniversary this month. And what a way for Christmas and to celebrate the Christmas and holiday season with my co-host Jared, who's been with me for 4 years as well. Jared, how are you?
Well, thank you, Neil, and I'm glad to be here. And you know it's not that easy to get rid of me, so I will be here much longer than the 4 years. It could be 8 years, it could be 40 years, but it will take a lot to get me out of this chair.
Oh, and again, he loves coming to the studio. As I said, this is the great confined studios of the Total Education Network where I live. I walk down the steps and go on the radio. It's a little different thing when I have to get dressed up a bit, and people will Jared's probably ask me, "What's up with the beard?" It's a new look for Christmas. Again, my playoff beard's not going well with the Steelers at all. It's pretty much over. So I guess I'll start my playoff beard for the Penguins, and I'll have a ZZ Top beard before the end, you know it. So last month, we covered some pretty interesting things. And what we wanted to do is take something that we're looking to write a book whenever Jared decides that he's going to write that book. And we've taken areas, the kind of review, we talked about a lot of speech and language and some gross motor. And that's where we're leaving off right now is gross motor skills. We talked about Jared and I doing a research study on people who walk early. By the way, Max has not walked yet. He's walked 4 steps, 4 or 5 steps. He's ready to walk, but the guy is already looking to crawl out of his pack and climb out of his pack and play. So it's definitely unlike my girls. But you believe, and the experts believe, again, the gross motor skills, even when they walk, it's not going to matter. Basically, it's not a huge developmental milestone as speech, potty training, different areas, because we really don't know which one is going to be our next star athlete. Even if we think athletics are important, as educators, Jared and I don't think that's the case. So go ahead.
Well, and Neil, that's very interesting of what you have even brought up. But even more interesting was the feedback that we've had on our last show. Almost instantaneously, either through YouTube or seeing the show on the cable TV access channels, we were already getting requests for advice. I mean, people talking to us, seeing us, even responding through emails, asking us about ways to help with their family routines, and I thought that was a really wonderful thing to see. People seeing the show and taking an interest and wanting to kind of make a difference in their own lives and reflecting on what they did. Now, going back to the question that we started out with here, the beard is looking wonderful, by the way. That was the first response. But there is no evidence that shows that star athletes walked early. Occasionally you hear a story about, the proud mother of her future Hall of Famer in the NFL or the Major League Baseball talking about how their child walked at 7 months. I'm not sure that family has remembered all of the details, but the research has shown that even language early, walking early, and that big one, toileting early, there doesn't seem to be a carryover to the prodigy who becomes the piano virtuoso.
Well, I really want to do that research, and again, just to kind of look at athletes, especially athletes that I interview on my show, and ask, when did you walk? And kind of do a little cool research thing. So maybe next month I could come up with some of those. We think about speech as well. What about the virtuosos or the great talk show hosts like myself? When did I talk? Those will be interesting things to take a look at. But let's go.
And they are interesting.
Truly. Let's go back to look at my memory and how I could jog. And I interview about 16 to 18 people a week, by the way, guys, and did 38. Because last time you saw me, I did 38 at the Miami Book Fair. So in 2 days worth of 6.5 hours programming a day. So Dave, be ready. I'm ready for a marathon when we get some people out to on location to film that much. But we're talking about specifically, I think we only were going into the crawling phase. We weren't even at the crawling phase. because you're so fantastic at the coming of the medical, and in certain things you're pulling, pulling that blanket or pulling those things. We're hanging out that toy. We're getting them to start to get to that point, belly to back, back to belly, all those different things, pulling up. But now it's time to look at specifically getting them to crawl, because you got to get them to crawl before they walk. But there are a couple people that's not the case. But you have
that
to.
That is true. There are exceptions to that. There are families that I visited that their child did walk before they actually crawled. But these steps are important. We talk about, people watching our show may think that these are of really not much consequence, but then they hear the way we've described it, and suddenly, they're really taking an interest in this.
Oh, I'm telling you right now, there's so many parents out there at a complete loss. And that's where we want to say that we take the gamut of things on total education with Neil and the new format, thanks to producer Shelby Haley, just kidding, it was myself, to basically come up with this idea that we're going to take it all the way to college and everything and talk about developmental levels. And we're just starting in our process of our monthly show and see how long it takes us, probably 16 years, and all my kids will be grown in college. But
then that will be our research project, how they turned out.
Exactly. And then I'll be called to the table again. But, by the way, I want to post this on YouTube. Ava sung a tremendous duet, third grade, with the choir for Lessons with Carols. That's on my Facebook page. I have to put it on my Facebook page, but it's on my wife's Facebook page. But I'll share it on my wall. But so what we were saying is basically the next step. Tell us that next step.
And that's what I like to hear when a parent smiles and tells me about an accomplishment that their child did. And that's what our job is about. Now we're going to tie that right into crawling. As we talked about, this is about having fun with your child, providing your child with opportunities even at 5-6 months of age. That's when you're going to start to see some of the skills that will transfer over to crawling. Being able to get up into a hand and knee position, being able to raise that chest and almost belly off the floor, getting those hips off the floor at about 5 or 6 months, so that at 7 or 8 months you have a child that is really getting ready to crawl, or what we refer to as that lunge, where they get up nice and high and then plop forward. Here's what's wonderful about watching these infants do this, is that they are intrinsically motivated. I mean, they want to do this. They want
Especially if they have a sibling.
Yes, absolutely. And they want to move forward. And here's what I tell parents. Here's what I suggest to parents. And that is, this is the time that you enjoy your child. And you enjoy your child throughout life, as you just showed us with describing Ava's recital. But this is when you really start to enjoy the time as a parent, because you're doing more than just meeting their basic needs. Up until that point, you really are changing diapers, feeding, trying to get them to sleep, or trying to get to sleep yourself, and that is just simply getting through the day. Now, as the parent, this is where you are saying, okay, what can I do? Lay that cloth just far enough away from the baby. Get down on the floor with your baby so that they see your face. And I mean, the parent, you want to get on your belly. Get down there, smile, get your baby moving, and help them even if you need to. Grab their little hands. Let them pull themselves forward from there. But these are the skills. And what's amazing about this, Neil, is you're not simply just meeting motor development, gross motor development. You are meeting cognitive development. Their brain is wiring. They're figuring out
all
muscle.
this kind of relates in so many ways. Exactly.
And now let's just talk about the social component to this. That baby seeing that mother, seeing that father, seeing that grandparent, and saying, I have to get to them. There's a huge an important social connection there that bonds both that infant and that child. And again, I think our audience can see how passionate I am about this.
Oh, absolutely, you are.
But this is where we begin that phase of that start of, I enjoy my child. Finding that moment throughout the day that you are going to say, wow, that was a lot of fun.
So let's think about this. And Jericho always goes with the medical terms of things. I'll go with the basic terms of the basic, because I guess I break things down in the basic way and simple factor. If we're at this point where they're going belly to back to belly, like, with the toys, jangling
Right in
jiggling
front of
them
them,
out
yes.
just like we did before.
Right.
But then also we could push on their feet and
Yep.
get back at them and push their feet so that they start to slide over. You can have their favorite toy, a remote control. I know some parents I don't want them to go after the remote control or the batteries, but something that he or she is ready to just keep going, and they start to inch forward, and inch forward, leading to what?
Well, leading to acquiring what they're looking for, getting a hold of
But
it.
what are they doing? What skill set now? And they're kind of inching forward and almost, but not, and they're not in that crawl position yet.
No, they're not. And what they are doing, though, is building those skills in the upper body strength. They're coordinating all their movements. And if a parent, if the adult gets down there and really watches this, you will see all the skills necessary for your child to coordinate, your infant to coordinate these movements. But you touched on something really important here, and that is, how do you help your child do this? And you talked about putting something behind their feet, your hands, your arm, your leg. So you could sit with one leg kind of in a V position so your infant can push against you. But if you can't do that, put your infant, their feet right up against the sofa, something that they can't push against. If you don't have the opportunity to do that, put your child on the blanket. Let them grab onto that blanket with their hands. It's a great upper body skill for your child to do. There are so many ways, front to back, to help your child do this. And we're not even touching on how you help your child get into a hand and knee position. I think we're going to have to bring props the next time we come here. I'm going to bring a doll, because I think we really do need to kind of show this, because I'll try to describe this in a simple way. How to get your child to get that hand and knee. What hand and knee position? We're kind of going into jargon. I'm going to say what looks like crawling.
Yeah.
So imagine your child's up and they look like they're getting ready to crawl, but they need help doing it. Well, what could you put? Well, you could put a nice little round pillow. You could put the child over your leg while you're sitting on the floor. There's so many ways to do that, but what's really happening there is your child is nice and high. They've changed their view. They see the world differently, and they're putting all this great weight on their hands, on their wrists, on their forearms. Those are the skills that are so important. Why does a child lunge at this point? Because they can't move one arm forward, so they're going to just drop down to the ground. And what's really neat about that is the child learns that, wow, I'm going forward.
Right. Okay, when we get back, more with Jarrett, and this is so amazing what we're going to try to do. We're going to try to cover birth all the way to college. It's going to take us a long time. Dave, you can't ever retire, because or I'm going to have to build my own studio, because I just really enjoy this conversation with Jarrett. Again, go to my website, totaltutor.net, and Twitter, totaltutor, and we'll be back in just a moment with Total Education with Neil.
Thanks to your generosity, Marines have delivered Christmas to children in need since 1947.
We'll go 14 on this one. Yeah, give me the count. We're back to Total Education with Neil, with Jarrett, and just an amazing, amazing experience to be able to have this media network, and the way that some of these unbelievable celebrities that I get to interview, to these authors. But when it comes down to why I did the show, it was because of my expertise from birth to college. And I brought my former colleague at an early intervention company that we worked together with back, and he's never left since. And it's just, again, we just keep talking about these things, but we're going into an area, gross motor skills for kids birth to 3. and you'll see that when we get into the 5 and 6 year olds, maybe it'll go a little faster, but this is the most important time. So please have a pen and paper. Make sure that these opportunities are out there, and I hope to put this out there also in the radio network as well, because this is gems for sure. It's not about our looks, because we don't have those looks. It's all about our knowledge and what we can bring to help parents. So we were talking about they're getting that almost to that missionary crawl position, but the problem is they're not getting those knees up. And you were trying to talk about this, and one of the skills, I want you to kind of describe it in developmental terms, and I'll describe it in the breaking it down in the simple terms for our viewers out there. So tell us.
Well, and you're right. How do we get that child to get into that crawling position, what we refer to, what we see? And here's where a lot of children kind of need help to do that, and it's really developing the muscle areas, the tendons areas within the hips, getting them there. But you can help them do that again by putting some things underneath their belly and sliding their knees forward, getting them there, and then holding your hand on their backside, and that will keep them from their legs sliding out. And when that happens, what they're really letting you know is when your child does that is they're just not quite strong enough to do that. Here's what's important is they will get there. They will develop that strength. Your job as the parent, as the caregiver, is to keep providing that little bit of help, not too much help, and the motivation to do that. So there's many medical reasons, scientific reasons for that takes time to develop. And the brain is developing simultaneously. So all those skills are transferring to the brain development, cognitively, connecting the tissue across hemispheres. I mean, this sounds almost like we make this up, but it's there. It's been researched. But the important thing that you can do with your child is be down there on the floor with them, giving them that opportunity to explore. You'll see your child do some amazing things before they even start to crawl. They're going to roll over almost looking like you're pushing a barrel across the floor. They're going to pivot, spin in a circle, 360 degrees. They're going to do really some amazing things, and that whole time they're going to be smiling at you. They're going to be showing you how much you mean to them and how much it means to your infant to actually accomplish something. And that is an accomplishment when they move 3 inches forward to grab that rattle, to grab those keys, to grab your nose. That's a pretty important thing.
And see, I always want to kind of bring it back, and I always got to bring back the reins to certain people, pull them back. Hey, we're not going fast now because, again, parents, we're trying to keep this really simple and keep it simple, as our good friend Simply G always says. So basically, we're talking about keeping it simple. You talked about getting them on their knees, and you're supporting them the entire time. You start rocking back and forth, and what I do with
just like you're doing right now.
Yes, I go Farah Jaka Domevu. I'm not singing anymore. I'm not the singer. But you sing a song, or A, B, C, D, E, F, G,
anything that develops a
H, I, J, K, and then they're enjoying it. They're going to be cooing. They're going to be, as Max already sang some of his ABCs. That is the way to kind of get them engaged, but also you're developing that muscle. So tell us that doctor term of like the muscle development from rocking them back and forth.
Well, you're looking at coordination, muscle development. That rocking is spatial, and that your child has to be able to coordinate, move forward, backward. They're transitioning, even if it's slight. By moving forward, they have to keep their hands in that position. They have to balance their head. Remember, their head is sometimes, for some children, 25% of their body weight. That's huge. I mean, that's a lot of weight to carry.
Truly a lot of
and when you transfer that and your child maintains that position, your infant has maintained that position, they are really doing some wonderful work. But we don't have to limit it just to being on their hands and knees. Here, you actually reminded me, you triggered a memory, some other things you can do to build the leg strength.
Right.
Again, we're talking that hip area, not so much the ankles when we're crawling, but that hip area is really important, the abdominals. Have your child sit facing you. You're on the floor. Put your infant over your leg. Hold their thumbs and their wrists so that you really have a good grasp on them. get them to push off the floor and go to a standing position off your leg. You can do it. So they're straddling your leg, almost like they're on a horse, on a pony. Get them to just put weight down on their ankles, force down on their hips. They're going to, by doing that, they're going to be building that whole core area from the abdominals all the way down to the hips, all the way down to the ankles.
So they're pulling themselves up.
Yes. If your child can't do it yet, don't give
up.
So
you're putting them in that standing position then?
Right. Over your leg.
Over your leg.
Right.
What are these people that decide they're going to start really early, like 3 or 4 months doing this? Is that a good idea or not?
I would wait a little bit. Yes.
Because what can happen?
You could actually tear an abdominal muscle. So you want to be a hernia. Your child could develop a hernia, and your pediatrician will absolutely tell you this. We know that for those parents out there.
Oh, I have a story going to the pediatrician, but we'll do that.
We know that children, infants especially at 2 months of age, it's reflexive that if you put something on their bottom of their feet, they're going to push up to go to a standing position. So remember when you first gave them that bath? I mean, even at 3 weeks old, you're holding them like this. They're facing you. Their feet touch that water, and what do they try and do? They're extending the legs. That is totally reflexive. It's the brain's reaction to a stimulus on the bottom of the foot. That's not the time to be getting your child into a standing position. You want to wait. You want to wait until they're actually showing some activity.
Where they're almost trying to pull up themselves.
Yes, exactly. But again, you can really help them with this and follow your infant's lead. If they're telling you, if they're complaining vocally, that's a good signal that they're saying, hey, I'm not really interested in doing this. But here's what I want to finish with that. If your child is not pushing up on their own, simply raise your leg. Here's how the parent can help. That term we use, scaffolding, enabling. Raise your leg. Just raise your leg off the floor, making like a V, an inverted V with your leg, and that will give your child assistance. And you'll notice, and this is the neat thing about it, when I did this with many, many parents of infants, you begin to recognize that a week later you don't have to give as much support. Sometimes it's a day or two. That's how quickly a child learns and develops these large muscle skills. And these are large muscle skills.
Absolutely. So we're at this point now. They're starting to do it. We're assisting them. They're finally getting up their knees. We're still doing that push segment. We're still trying to push their leg. And I'll give you some strategies from that. But you're trying to get them to move forward and crawl. It's such an important situation. People are like, you're talking about crawling. Honestly, you don't want to hold that baby all day long, especially when you're going to have my fifth. Let's get him walking or her walking in 2 months. Because again, next month I'll be back with, hopefully, God willing, a fifth child, and we'll be on the air talking about a son or daughter. Everyone, please, a boy. I can't have 4 girls. I will. You'll be laughing at me, and I got a little joke for that one about 4 girls. Again, I had Carrie Walsh Jennings from the beach volleyball 3-time gold medalist on the show on Saturday, but it was I was promoting Tampax, so maybe I'll need that. I'll need to basically have that opportunity again. So let's hope a boy. But okay.
Well, and we know on some of our radio shows, we can't even discuss what you just brought up right here on where we are in some of our listening shows for our audience. That is a very funny story. The person I really feel sorry for is Max. I mean, that's the one who we
So hope for Max. Okay. So at this point,
where are we on that?
We're trying to crawl. We're
getting them to the crawl. Helping your child. Here's the critical part: getting your child down on that floor as much as possible, giving them that opportunity to explore. We always emphasize routines on this show, and especially when we started out. Your day as a parent is so incredibly busy, as a caregiver, so incredibly busy. Make it routine oriented. You have to change that diaper. You change the diaper as quickly as possible. Let your child and you be on that floor, engaged in play. It's important to recognize your child, even at 5-6 months of age, is still going to be sleeping a great deal of the day. So you're not going to have to spend hours doing this. We're talking maybe at this point 20, 30 minutes after you've changed a diaper, after you have finished a meal. Something that that is routine based, so that as a parent you're not feeling like, oh my gosh, Jarrett, my therapist, he told me we have to be doing these 30 minutes a day and I forgot all about it. We're not here to add stress to your life. We're here to actually make your life easier, more enjoyable. And that's what I tell parents. We want to enjoy every moment with your child, because there will be a lot of stress raising a child. So take that time. You've just changed a diaper. You've just come in from the car. Your child is now awake from that little nap, that brief nap in the car seat. It's perfect time to carry the car seat in, and before you put the groceries away, do anything else, take the child out of the car seat, get down on the floor. Or leave the child in the car seat, put the groceries away, then get down on the floor. And that can be your gross motor time.
Absolutely.
And that's what
Definitely.
routine-based
You're right.
plans.
Okay, so we are finally, like I said, some of the fun things when you're on the floor with them. You keep singing songs. You make sure that they want something they really want, even something maybe you don't want to give them. that they always go to grab for, and then before you know it, they're crawling and crawling. And now this is when we kind of get the military crawl going, where they're individually doing it on their own now. They're starting to crawl on their own, but they're inching back and forth. But they're not getting on their knees, but they're able to move. And sometimes they're able to move backwards. So that they really are not crawling the perfect crawl yet. But so basically in time it's going to happen, right?
And notice your child's expression when they start to move backwards. Even they give you the idea of, wow, this is a little bit confusing. I want to go this direction, but for some reason my body is taking me in the opposite direction. Watch their expression. I feel they absolutely recognize it's not going exactly the way they planned. But you mentioned the military crawl. That's the one where the arms are kind of coming forward and they're just kind of rotating the hips, the belly. Yeah. Maybe the belly's getting off the floor just a tiny bit. Right. Let your child do that. Because maybe they're not developing all of the skills in the lower portion of their body, but boy, are they really developing the skills in this upper portion of the body. So let your child do that military crawl. Continue to put them in a position where they can practice the hand and knee, but allow them to go forward, because that's really the critical step.
So the military crawl, after we have that military crawl going, and it's again just keeping them engaged, getting them excited, getting them going. They're going to get up to their knees, and they're going to crawl on their own. It's a little different than walking. Walking, we have to engage them a little bit more sometimes to get to that point. But crawling, after you have the military, I give it 1-2 weeks tops, and you're going to be crawling.
Probably, yeah. I mean, sometimes it's sooner than that. Sometimes it's a little bit later. But here's the interesting part from the behavioral component of this. This will be the first kind of signals where your child is going to start to show anger that is not associated with change my diaper, get me something to eat, and put me to bed.
Because he wants to be on that floor.
Absolutely.
Never the pack and play.
And now you're well, the pack and play is useful. I mean, we're talking safety too.
Yeah, I agree.
There are, just as I said, if your child's in that car seat and you need to put those groceries away, then you do it right then, because now your child's safe and secure. You're not distracted as a parent. So the pack and play is important. If as a parent you're distracted, not the time to be practicing some of these skills. Get the task you need to be completing as the parent, so that now you can devote your time to the skills and the enjoyment of your child. But those are really, but here's where you'll start to see your child, it's 7 months, maybe 6 months, start to say, you just moved me. I was trying to go over there. I wanted those batteries. I wanted that remote.
Exactly.
It'll be brief. And it certainly is not to be classified as a tantrum, but it is the early stages of saying, you stopped me from doing something that I wanted.
All right, so as we would say, the mom, dad, it's okay to put me in the pack and play. That's what the baby says, because they'll be safe. All right, when we get back, continue with the gross motor skills. It's amazing. I have to go back to the last show and say, let's look at the notes and see if we covered things twice, but jot down with a pen and paper. If this is the first time you've watched the show, go to my website, totaltutor.net, Twitter, Total Tutor, Neil S. Haley, Facebook. If you are into Twitter or Facebook, go on my wall, ask me a question, friend me on Facebook. I will be able to help you. We'll be back in just a moment.
Here comes the monster. The Tickle Monster.
Just imagine what a little time can do for your family. From the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
We're back to Total Education with Neil, and I'm with my great co-host Jarrett. Please visit the website again, totaltutor.net, for all information about me and Jarrett. Now, this is an interesting conversation we're having regarding gross motor skills. We have a long way to go on certain areas to get to 3. It'll be interesting to see what we're talking about 4. We might have to take the Battelle and start reading the Battelle and just start talking about things. But it's really sad. Where are our notes, Jarrett? I don't have any notes.
Well, we've done this for quite a long
time.
time.
A lot of time, yeah.
And we're raising children right now, so we're practicing.
Yeah, exactly.
You get lots more practice.
Yeah, I definitely get a lot
than
more.
I do. But it's something that I completely enjoy. I read constantly about, even now as I've kind of branched out into other areas, but it's still reading that because I feel the connection between what we do with our children through play is what develops them, the emotional component, and people have heard me speak and know my feelings about this. There is the most important job we can be doing as adults is providing a healthy, positive relationship with our children, and by doing that, we provide them. That's why we started this. I mean, this was a pretty broad and important goal for us. We wanted to change the way parents saw and adults saw their role with children, and that was to show them that these things can be so enjoyable, and you can develop a wonderfully healthy relationship based on trust, kindness, gentleness, and opportunity. And that's what we're really talking about here. I'm gonna jump forward a little bit. This past weekend, we've been skiing the past 2 weekends, and our audience is familiar with my son's skills on the ski slope. He's now skiing backwards, and here's where we're intentionally, by the way. Here's where you'll see my eyes light up and me smile as I talk about this. But there's a risk involved in all that we do with our child. When we give our child that chance to explore, our infant at 5 or 6 months, there is a risk involved, and it can be scary for that new parent, especially as they're seeing their child do this. As I say to my son, the risk is important, and we want to be cautious in what we do, but provide that child with opportunity to take chances, to take risks. And that happens as they begin to roll over and they begin to explore. They experience failure, not being able to do it, and they experience the satisfaction that comes with moving one foot, getting up onto those hands and knees, rocking on their own as you sing the song. And that is actually a really neat activity to do with your child. They'll start to show rhythm and movement.
So now they're crawling.
Yep.
And now we want to get them to walk. Why? I don't know why we want to get them to walk. Keep them crawling all the time. Put them in the pack and play. Then you can get things done. No, at one point it just becomes too much of a hassle. They want to be free. They want to have the opportunity to just do whatever they want to do. And you want them to catch up to their siblings, or if they're the only child, to follow mom and dad around. Mm-hmm. So at this point, I believe the pack and play is a very important tool, strategy to utilize.
Absolutely. Let's talk about how we can use the pack and play to encourage walking.
So if you don't have a pack and play, I recommend you go pick up a pack and play so that you have some freedom for yourself, but also your child has freedom to explore, because that pack and play is a place to explore.
Well, especially a family that may have not as large of a space. If you have a big space, you could put that they have those like gates that kind of build a nice large fence where your child can be within and really have plenty of room to explore. If you can't be on there, you can maneuver the furniture in ways that will kind of create barriers so that your child is in a safe area and can explore. But some people, we just don't have a lot of room in our home, and there's where the pack and play can be of great benefit. But the pack and play, just like the crib, gives your child a chance to pull up, to be sitting down, to be on their knees, pull up to a standing position. They can then use their little hands
Right.
to coordinate a movement where it isn't walking, it's more of like sidestepping. It's what we call cruising in developmental therapy, where they're holding on to something and they're stepping sideways, not really going forward yet, but they are at least learning the movements associated with moving your feet,
Yes.
getting everything in line, because we know this for parents that have seen their children first start to step or cruise.
Yeah.
It's hard to get both of those feet moving. You'll see one foot steps too far and their legs are too far apart and they can't figure out how to get out of that position. Or here's one of my favorite is they pull up to that standing position and then they cry to mom and dad because they don't know how to get down. That's a big scary thing to say. How do I get I can't see behind me. How am I going to do this? But again, that's where the pack and play can be really, really important. I've seen children take their first steps in the pack and play by going from one end of the pack and play to the other.
Exactly.
They take a step or two, and then they reach out and lunge.
grab
Again, that's a wonderful opportunity to get your child to make some of those first stepping movements, because the pack and play is really built, like the crib, to get those hands right at about the shoulder, chin, shoulder, chest level. We know that that's high enough that they can't get out and over because they can't get that leg up high enough. But they can grab onto something. If it's too low, they're not going to be able to do it. Now, they'll be able to stand up nice and tall. And it's not exactly safe if it were too low. So there's where a pack and play, a crib, can be just a wonderful source of motivation and experience for your child.
One thing about the pack and play, there's not a lot of great Total Tutor tips or Just Jarrett tips involved in this. It's a lot of independence. They're going to figure it out on their own. Really, the smart thing is don't have too many toys in the pack and play.
Exactly.
I have seen it countless times. What a great way to clean up your floor. Put it in the pack and play and throw the child in. And there's absolutely no space, but this amount of space to... No. But have a limited amount of toys. You should have some toys in there. 1 or 2 or maybe 3 toys, and alternate those toys that engage them. But a lot of times you want them to be so excited in that pack and play that they want to get out. And they start pulling themselves up, running around. Max, what he does is a little different than our other kids. And he's a 70th percentile already height. So he might be close to, he's not going to be my height, but he's going to be a pretty big guy. He's already rocking it back and forth, almost tipping it over. He's that strong. And he's only 15 months old. But he is really utilizing it. He's crawling, he's jumping on his toy. He's developing those leg muscles. Still not walking, but we're going to get there. He's about 6 to 7 steps, and we'll get to that point. But cruising is such an important point. But in the pack and play, no strategies needed. But when we take him out of the pack and play, let me give you a scenario and let Jarrett tell you the next part. So the scenario is this, Jarrett. It's very simple. You get them out of the pack and play. They start crawling because they're crawling like up a storm. They crawl right to the couch. They walk to the couch. They pull themselves up, and they start to walk over to go get to mommy or daddy. How can we keep them doing that to create the ability to cruise using a table or I like a couch. A couch is much safer than a coffee table. It's much safer than let's say a TV stand or certain things that can be very, very dangerous.
Right. If you're using those things that like our desks here for the show, you're definitely going to need to get some of those cushion pads that you can buy at any of the hardware stores or any of the baby stores. You really need to do that. But here's something as basic as what you can use for your couch or another piece of furniture. If you have an ottoman, a footstool, build an L. The way our desks are almost in an L shape, build an L so that now your child has more room to explore. They have to twist, they have to turn their body. So make an L and have toys that they're exploring, and then they're going to turn and they're going to make that L. And here's what you'll start to see is as your child gets, as your infant gets better and better at that skill, they are going to let go with one or both hands and step on their own. The first step could be when they make that turn from one piece of furniture to the next.
You get them wound up.
And here's something else that I would tell parents. If your child is not in the 70th percentile and a little bit on the smaller end, take the couch cushions off and now your child will, instead of the couch being up here for them and incredibly hard to get, you're going to lower it, and it's going to be right about here for them, and they're going to be able to really place their hands on there. And I know if you have a house like mine, it can be pretty scary to take the couch cushions off and find out what's underneath them. So
we made a mistake and took those off. We lost Anastasia's glasses, and that was a story in itself for sure. A big story, because a lot of things underneath the couch, and it wasn't money.
Under the cushions, especially crumbs, and you might want to take care of. You might want to do that when you're not expecting company, because there can be a little bit of an embarrassment with that. But that is a great thing to do, because the edge of the couch is still pretty soft. Your child, even if they would fall forward, they don't have any teeth yet, so they're not going to cut, and they're going to fall. That is, they're going to fall, and they're going to get back up. That's a wonderful, literal interpretation and a metaphor. You're going to fall. It's not how many times we fall, it's how many times we get back up. And that's what your child is doing. Use the furniture. Maneuver that furniture in a way that will provide opportunities for your child to step forward and explore, take risks. You'll see. Watch your child's face. Watch how they are trying to figure out, how am I going to get from point A to point B? I'm going to have to let go.
Exactly.
I'm not sure. But how can you help as a parent? You can support them from behind, hold their hips, give them some stabilization, help them feel just enough support to take that. I guarantee if anyone has a child who's close to doing this, simply hold them around their hips, and you'll see that your child will start to step, because they feel stable.
Okay, so at this point, there are strategies. It's not independence anymore. When you have them cruising, you have to be engaged. You can't say, "Oh, they're cruising. Let me go to the kitchen and start getting the dishes." No. If you listen to my Q&A show on at TotalTutor.net, you'll find out. My Q&A show with my co-host Maggie Stevens, we answer questions from parents. Literally, I am hard on them at times. Maggie's not. I will, especially some crazy questions about marijuana in Colorado. But that's for another time and another place. And you got to listen to the show to check that out. Now, but what we're saying about next part is you got to do this, and it's cruising. I literally look at it like this. Hey, I'm motivating them. It's like training an athlete. You have them right here in the couch right here, let's say, and as I'm blocking the camera. And what you're doing is you're taking them, and you put a toy in front of them. You put anything you need to put in front of them, so they start to cruise right to that toy. So they're cruising on the entire couch. Yep. And at times, you take that toy and you pick it up. And then they start to forget they're on the couch, and they start to walk. Yeah. And then that's the process. But you make it fun. You make it crazy. You get them goofy, get them laughing, so they don't really pay attention that they're holding themselves up or not holding themselves up.
Oh, and Neil, I cannot tell you, I will tell you, I have seen so many times that child who has taken the first steps, and everyone in the room has screamed and cheered and hollered, and what does the child do?
Fall.
Sit right back down, sit down, and sometimes I've even seen a child cry. They're startled by the reaction of what they saw everyone else in the room do. We can't help that as a parent.
It's not a guarantee. Some kids, when they finally walk, they walk, while others walk earlier, but they never get that final process. So when we get back, we're going to find out about those first steps. We're going to find out about when they're finally walking. And what can we have them involved with next? Because, again, we're going to the threes. We've kind of bounced around. This is the second week of doing the second show of doing this, but we're going to figure it out. You're listening to Total Education, watching Total Education with Neil, with Jarrett. We'll be back in just a moment.
We had been called up for the first time. Wildfires were getting close to homes. At that moment, I got my first taste of just how important the Guard is.
Be there for your community at NationalGuard.com.
We're back to Total Education with Neil. with my co-host Jarrett, you got to go to my website, totaltutor.net, for more information. Twitter, Total Tutor Neil S. Haley, Facebook. And please friend me on Facebook and ask any questions that you have regarding birth to 3. And then I can also, if I can't answer them, I know my co-host Jarrett can. And Jarrett, we're talking about, again, the whole process of walking. We're getting them to walk a couple steps. But we shouldn't give up at this point when they only walk 3 or 4 steps. Like I said, that was a month ago Max is doing it. He's getting 5 or 6. But when we're talking holidays, it's only been a few weeks, too, since the last time we filmed.
Right.
Because of the holiday, and we're getting close to Christmas and everything like that. See my Christmas tie. One of my students bought me this one Christmas. So what I was saying is what you were talking about specifically. Don't be worried if they're only walking 3 or 4 steps and they just fall down and want to crawl again.
Right. Even if we're looking at a child at say 15 months and the steps are minimal, what I always suggested to parents, I said is, imagine what they're doing is refining those skills that they have. So instead of seeing that leap forward of 2 steps to 10 steps going all the way across the room, think about it as they're refining all of those skills necessary to get them to do that. So the more that they pull up to stand, the more 1 and 2 steps they take and then sit back down or lower themselves back down. Don't see that as a lack of motivation. Instead, say, I see what my child is doing. They're getting better at those skills that they already have. And it isn't a gimmick, and it certainly isn't an excuse. I really believe in all the years that I've done this that I do see children do that. Children who have not made that great leap forward. Teachers see this all the time with older students. I'll try and use my hands as a graphic here. As we will see the children will learn a skill, and that skill will look like a steep mountain, a hillside. It will go up and up and up really, really quickly. And then it levels off, it plateaus. That's where we see the refining of the skill. So the child is not learning new things at that point. They're refining, they're becoming an expert at what they have previously learned before they go off onto the next steep climb of where they're acquiring their skill. So think of that with your 10-month-old, your 11-month-old, your 12-month-old who has started to take those early initial steps, and they don't go past that. They're refining all of those skills necessary to get them to go further. So Max is getting better and better at coordinating the first few steps. He's getting better and better at going to a standing position, lowering himself back down, which I'm sure you're seeing all the time now with him as he begins to explore. To get your child to, again, we know. And for our listeners, the people that are watching this show and saying, well, this will happen anyway. And they're right, it will. But if we taking that approach, of, what's the big deal, they'll do it anyway. Look at all you've missed with your child.
Yeah, you're getting the opportunity to interact with them.
Yes.
And at this point, we're getting that walk. We're getting to that walk phase, Jarrett. We have to just now let it be. All the strategies we talked about, they're finally walking 4 or 5 steps. Continue to do the cruising in the pack and play. Continue to do the cruising on the sofa. Continue to have them. Another strategy I do is now start to walk with them by supporting them.
Exactly. And if you can't always do that, find something that is, again, at about the activity tables that many of the toy manufacturers make are perfect height for this, because they hit the child, that 1-year-old child, directly between the shoulders and the belly, the hips. They hit them right here, and it's the perfect height for that child to lean against it and slide that object forward. You don't want to spend $40 for that kind of toy. Take a laundry basket, a nice rectangular square laundry basket, about maybe almost 3 feet long, 2.5 feet long. Invert it, turn it over so that the base is, the top is on the floor, and you have a nice wide base. Let your child lean against that and push it across the floor. Those are everyday things that you can find in your house. If you're a parent and you want to be right there with your child, take a towel, a nice long towel, and roll it up. Get it underneath your child's arms right here under the armpits. You can be in front of them, you can be behind them. If you're behind them, you're going to make it nice and snug, and you'll be holding it in the, almost like kind of tying a corset in the, the last 2 centuries ago. Hold it there and let your child start to take steps. What you'll see, though, is the movement on that will not be quite identical to walking on their own, because your child's going to lean forward. They're going to feel that. And so they're going to be, instead of straight up like this, they're going to be kind of tilted. And if they did that on their own, they would just flop right over.
And now here's the keep it simple method. Well, at this point, when they're walking 3, 4, 5 steps, hold their hand.
Yes.
And walk around with them.
Don't hold their hands like this.
No.
hold their hands down there. Right.
Yeah,
we've all seen the parents the adults that are behind the child and their hands are way up there. You have to get down on your child's level. You want to be down on your knees, and you're walking on your knees and holding your child from there, because again, the child will use their arms almost the same way that a tightrope walker uses a long pole. They're going to put this is why we see our children make almost those Frankenstein steps. They're using their arms as a balancing technique. What's
amazing is then we finally have them walking, and they're walking. And then before you don't need to teach them anymore on the walking end of things. And this, what's very interesting in the show is I think that's what we kind of jumped from gross motor. We jumped from our speech to gross motor. I have no idea why. It's just because we get in these conversations, we could talk for hours. Like I said, we could talk about certain subjects for a long period of time. Now we have really touched upon gross. I want to go back to gross again, as I want to go back to speech again, as I want to go into cognitive next month. But the area I want to go to next, maybe not next month, in 2 months, is fine motor skills. Because we've taught all the gross motor skills possible. But guess what, parents? That's not the ones that are the biggest headache. Feeding is the biggest headache. The biggest headache is learning to tie your shoes, learning to pick up things, learning to do things that make our lives easier. When a child's able to pick up the toys, yay!
How about learn how to use the thumb?
Yes.
I mean, watch your child as they begin to practice some of these fine motor skills. Why is eating so hard?
Pick up the little piece and eat
Why
it.
Is eating, Why is
use
eating
a fork and knife?
Very challenging for that 7-8-month-old, because they're still learning out how to use this here.
So we want to know what you think. What is and you could go email me at haley@totaltutor.org. What's the most difficult milestone to teach or to engage? Is it fine motor? Is it gross motor? Is it speech? Is it cognitive? Or potty training? Let me know. I want to know. We will share it on our next show. Now we're at fine motor. It starts very early. Again, let's start at the beginning. The baby's born. What first fine motor skills developed? And I know we're going to run out of time pretty soon, but I'm going to check that. But you go ahead and grab that.
And here's where your child may have many more. Your infant may have many more fine motor skills with the fingers, with dexterity than we actually know, because their gross motor, their large muscle skills are actually holding them back. And I'll just ask our audience out there, try a simple experiment. One of the earliest fine motor skills is a 1-month-old who is able to get their hands, while they're flat on their back, get their hands together and start to explore their fingers by simply crossing them over like this. Imagine a child who doesn't have the strength yet to get their arms off the floor if they're flat on the floor. They could be able to do this, but not show that to you because they can't get their arms up high enough to across their chest. Remember, the arms are kind of short yet right now. They haven't learned to really extend because of bone development, muscle development. Here's a great way to test that if you want to as a parent. Take a nice washcloth, roll it up, place it underneath your child's shoulder to the elbow, so you're giving them a prop. Or use the boppy, those nice popular round boppies. That will support your child over there. Now, with that support, they'll be able to get their hands together. Watch what they do with their fingers.
But I'm going to jump back. We got to think about early, very early. It's hard to remember that, right, Jarrett?
I think I know where you're going. I want to hear what you say.
I'm talking the pincer grasp. I'm talking born. fine motor. Think about specifically the reflex. Think about the areas very early in fine motor skill development. Just learning to grab that toy. So I want to kind of pull you back and tell, when is the first fine motor development? When do you see the first fine motor? It's not a reflex.
Well, and many of the fine motor that we do develop later are reflex actions. We know that what we term as the palmar grasp is one of the first things that they check out at the hospital after your baby has been born, and that is if you place something in the baby's palm, the finger should automatically close. That's very, very important for the child learning how to use their hand. We want that reflex there. So what we do is as therapists is we take that reflex and we provide opportunities for that child to practice it. Give them things that they can feel in the palm of their hand and grasp them. I thought you were going to go with thumb sucking as one of the.
Oh, that we can definitely get to that. Yeah.
Getting the fist, the fingers, and the mouth. Again, that's something that I've shown many parents that their child could do, and they didn't see it happen because the child wasn't quite strong enough yet to get the hand up into their mouth. But as soon as we provided a prop, a support, the child was able to do it. But those early reflexive actions that the child uses or the child is born with are very important to help develop those fine motor skills.
So those are definitely fine motor skills.
The pincer grasp is definitely going to, that comes later because we know this is that as you watch your child grab things, your infant especially, the thumb is going to be on the outside of their hand, and that's exactly the way it should be. As that thumb begins to go underneath, that's where that pincer, what we imagine pinching yourself. That's why we call it that. So that will definitely come later, but you're having your child learn all of those things by providing them with nice things to grab. Linking rings are incredible toys, and they are cheap. And they're safe. They are safe. You can get a bag of linking rings at any of the nice toy stores. I mean, we're talking 50 linking rings, and they're nice plastic, and they're colorful, and they're no sharp edges, and they have some nice texture to them. But they are great to develop gross motor skills and fine motor skills.
Birth to 3 months now. What first strategy should we engage kids at birth to 3 involving fine motor skills? Which one would you say first?
Getting the fingers up to the mouth. Getting that child to get their hands together in what we call midline. Midline is significant because it's starting to develop from cognitively. It's developing left and right hemispheres. Your child's not going to have those yet. That's why. You reminded me of something wonderful here. This will come a little bit later than 2 months. By getting your infant to take one toy or one object from one hand to the other hand. And that's how they will do it, because we know that the hemispheres are not completely developed. They're going to bring that hand across and they're going to change it. I have my phone right here. I'll show you. You're going to bring it over to here, right in front of their body.
That's a milestone.
It's a huge milestone.
Amazing.
But those are some of the early things. At 2 months of age, you're looking for your child to be able to grasp objects, not drop them yet. If they drop it, it's going to be totally accidental. And they're not really going to be picking them up. What you want your child to do is exploring their clothes. And again, at 2 months, exploring their clothes. Exploring your face, grabbing your nose.
All right, I can't believe we've almost run out of time, but next month, we're going to really tackle fine motor skills and start cognitive. Like I said, and we're really going only to 1-2 years old. It's based on what you believe developmentally a certain skill set is. Then go further. Again, go to my website, totaltutor.net, for more information. Social media is huge for me. Twitter, Total Tutor, Neil S. Haley, Facebook. I will take any friend request. Then you can go post on my wall any types of questions. For our viewing audience in Pittsburgh, you can listen to my radio show on Fridays at 4:30 on 88.3 FM in Pittsburgh, and Saturdays at 3 p.m. on 1080 AM WWNL. Fantastic. I'm going to wish all of the Total Education viewing audience a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year and Happy Holidays. to Jarrett and you, and happy holidays to you. And it was great for
Absolutely.
coming by,
Wonderful.
and looking forward to next month. And Happy New Year to everyone. We'll see you next year.